Hey, what's up guys, coming at you with another Weiss Schwarz deck profile. Now this profile we're going to do is of a deck that is quite old. I just was going through my old videos and realized that I never actually did this deck profile, which is pretty surprising. So when I was doing my Buddy Fight deck profile for Idolm ster Cinderella Girls, which you can check out, there'll be a link to it in the description of this video. I linked my Asterisk deck profile for this, which I'll leave a link for as well in the description, and realized I didn't actually do one for my Ronco deck. Now, we haven't done a lot of Weiss Schwarz profiles on the channel in a while, just because I haven't been playing the game as much, but this is easily one of my favorite decks, and I'm really annoyed that I didn't actually profile it. So, much like my Asterisk deck, this deck is not buildable in English, as it does require the second set, which, due to, of course, the second set being really, really powerful, it has not yet come to English. I will also not be doing the full translated names for these cards. I will have them in the description of this video just to save a bit of time. So without any further ado guys, let's jump into the video and hopefully you guys really do like the profile. Starting things off, guys, we are playing 3 copies of the Ronco Vanilla. Now, there are 4 different artworks from this, and it is from the trial deck. Now, there are much, probably better cards you can run in the deck as opposed to this. It's just a 3K Vanilla. You're mostly going to use it as level fodder or as a clock fodder. I used to run it at 4 copies. I just bumped it down to 3. You know, if you do run 4, you can run all the 4 artworks. But you can also play a nice little game with yourself trying to get A, B, C in your level zone. We are playing essentially a mono blue deck, so it's not too much of an issue, but it is cute seeing lots of different artworks. And despite being print screens, these ones actually don't look too blurry. Continuing on, we have 3 copies of our Level 0 Ronco Assist. Now, this card is from the second set, and it pretty much makes our Level 1 combo very, very powerful. Now, if you're not familiar with the Level 1 combo, we'll go to it when we talk about it, but this card is a little bit wordy. So its first effect is characters in front of it gain 500 power. Then when a character is placed onto your stage via the waiting room due to a change effect, it gets an extra 500 power and hand on call until the end of the turn. Now this seems kind of awkward, but it does work really well with the Ronco change combo, which works in the start of either your opponent's draw phase or your attack phase. So there's a lot of ways that you can really utilize this change to your advantage throughout the game, and that's essentially what the deck is based around. Definitely one of the key cards you want to be grabbing as quickly as possible from your deck, and it's really good as a back row support as well with your Rena. We're running 2 copies of the Kaide Grade 0. So she has 2k power, and her ability is if you have 2 or less stock, she gains 1/5 power. At the start of your opponent's attack phase, she can run to the center slot of your field. So your front row center slot if you're an English player. We have 2 copies of Kome, the Grade 0 Kome, the Grade 0, Arisu. So when she's placed from hand to stage, you can do one of 2 things. You can either check the top card of your deck, add it, if it's a music character, add it to hand, ditch 1, and then you can discard a music character from your hand to draw a card. And you can choose to do that whatever order you want. Really good way to filter cards out of hand and to draw cards as well, which is nice. We have 2 copies of the Grade 0 Miku, which is easily one of my favorite cards from the second set. When she's placed from hand to stage, discard a Climax from your hand, and you can salvage any music character you want. And then when she attacks, if her damage is cancelled, you can send her to stock. Now, she's never going to go to stock, because in my experiences, no one ever cancels this card, so unfortunately, that's a bit of a shame. Next up, we have our restricted list card that we play. So we play 2 copies of the Como Rare from the first set. So when she's placed from hand to stage, look up the top 4 cards of your deck, and if you can add a Climax from those to your hand, you can, and you just have to discard a card from your hand. The good thing about this card is that it is an optional. The add is optional. Now the mill is compulsory, but you don't have to, you know, add the Climax if you want to or not. It's really good to mill characters on your deck, as you do play cards out of the waiting room. Now, alternatively, if you don't want to run this, you can run the Akatsuki Rin, but I do find that getting characters in this deck is a lot easier than getting the Climax for Grade 3, so most of the time you'll probably just have to hold on to the Climax, so I'd like the chance to actually be able to kind of almost guarantee that I'm going to get the Climax a lot easier, but at the end of the day, it's up to you. Now, you can't run this and the Akatsuki Rin in the same deck because of how broken they both were with the Triad Primus deck. Moving on, we have Brainstorm for the deck. So we have 3 copies of Rena. Now, this deck doesn't have too much access to salvage. We do have Miku, but that's pretty much it. But our characters can, change from the waiting room, so that's pretty much the main focus of the deck. So her ability is the character during your opponent's turn, the character in your front row center slot gains 1,000 power, and it's a pay 1, rest 2, mill 4 Brainstormer. Now, obviously, if you want to, you can run the Conoco Brainstormer instead, which can salvage, which essentially may work a little bit better for this deck, but the power that this gives you in combination with your back row Ronco and the power that your Roncos are going to get from changing is just too big. Like, the Ronco in your center slot is going to be 9-5 with hand on core in your opponent's turn with the ideal setup, which, unless they're running wind triggers or suiciders, is going to be very difficult to deal with. Now, obviously, suiciders are a lot more common today than they were when this deck came out, so it has taken quite a bit of a hit. The last grade 0 we're running is 1 copy of the Blue Producer, so when he's sent from the field to the waiting, you pay 1, discard a Climax, and you can grab a Climax. So you can basically swap your Climaxes out, which is pretty cool. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have the main bulk of our grade 1, which is 4 copies of the White Angel Ronco and 4 copies of the Black Fallen Angel Ronco. So we're looking at these two cards together because they are the main bulk of the deck and essentially the main combo. So the White Ronco reads at the start of your Climax phase, you can send this to the waiting room and change into the Devil Ronco. If you do, the Devil Ronco gains an additional 2/5 power. At the start of your opponent's draw phase, you can change this Ronco into this Ronco, and then this Ronco will gain 2/5 power. This combos off with our level 0 Ronco that when they come into play via change from the waiting room, they gain an extra 500 power and hand on core. So essentially the idea of the deck is you're going to be swapping these out as much as possible. Because the White Roncos don't actually attack, you can actually use them as secondary Brainstormers for your Rena, which is the main reason why I think Rena is a better Brainstormer in this deck, as you can Brainstorm with your back row, then you can Brainstorm with your 2 Roncos in the front row. Now it can get a little bit greedy, and you do have to, make sure you know where your change characters are at all times. But essentially, if everything's going according to plan, your opponent's not necessarily going to be able to beat over your characters. You'll just hand on core the ones you don't need. You'll build up your hand, and you'll make a ton of stock to just compress, which is pretty cool. We're running 1 copy of the trial deck level 1 Ronco just as filler because it's not terrible, but at least it's a beat stick. So when another one of your music characters attacks, she gains 1,000 power, so it's 105k. And it can essentially become a 1075 if she's in the right slot. We have 2 copies of the Kome and Asuka because it's Ronco deck, and unfortunately this is the only Asuka card we have in Weiss Schwarz. So it is a 1/0, and when one of your characters is front attacked, you can sack this on your field to pump it 1/5 power. So if you really need to, you can throw this on the field and then pump it up, sack it to give one of your level 1 Roncos even more power if your opponent somehow managed to beat over them. And it's the only card with Asuka on it, so we just have to run it. The last 2 grade 1s we run are 2 counters. We run the 1/1 counter that lets us Scribe top card by deck, and the 1/02k counter. You can max out on the 1/02k counter if you want over this, but I think the ability to Scribe can also be really useful in certain situations. Level 2 game is surprisingly big in this. We have 1 copy of the promo. So when she's placed from hand stage, you can pay 1, send in the memory to grab one of the White Ronco and one of the Black Ronco from your waiting room and put them onto the stage in different slots. Now that's actually really powerful, as it's a 1 card that can essentially get you 2 characters on the field. So that's actually really good. We have 2 copies of the Ronco Level Assist because she works really well with her finisher. So she's Level Assist in front, and whenever you play a Climax, you can check the top card of your deck, leave it at the top or put it on the bottom, and pump one of your characters for 500 power, which can be really useful when you get to your grade 3 Ronco. We have 2 copies of the 2/2 Ronco, which you could easily cut down, but I don't find myself playing this very often. So if you have 4 or more characters on your field, she gets -1 level in hand, so she's essentially a 1/2/8k. At the end of the day, if you can't get your level 1 Ronco combo, you use this, but honestly, you don't. You mostly just clock it and level it, and we play it because it's an okay Ronco card, I guess. Moving on to the grade 3s, we start off with our grade 3 Ronco, the main focus of the deck. When she's placed command stage, you heal 1, and she has a Climax combo with the book trigger, Legene Rosenberg Angel. Or is it Rosenberg Angel? It's just Legene with her book trigger. When she attacks, you mill the top 5 cards of your deck. For every Climax you hit, you deal your opponent 1 damage. Now, it's not do your opponent X damage, where X is number of Climaxes, I apologize. It's not individual damage, and if you hit a Climax, she gets plus 2,000 power. Now, it's not the most consistent finisher, but hey, at least Ronco got a finisher, and it's not terrible. which is actually really nice. And she is pretty easy to beat over, as you do kind of need the level assist and all that. She only gets the power in your own turn, but it's an old grade 3. What can you expect? The last character we play in the deck is 2 copies of the grade 3 Rena. So the grade 3 Rena, obviously I talked about it in my Asterisk profile, but when she's placed from hand to stage, you heal 1. Climax combo with over heartbeat version in the waiting room. When she attacks, if over heartbeat version is in the waiting room, you can check the top 2 cards of your deck, leave one of them on the top, and put either of them on the top, or put either of them in the waiting room. Now, it's a decent secondary backup if you, with your Roncos, if you can't triple Ronco. You're still going to be able to heal, and say you can 2 Ronco, 1 Rena. You can essentially almost try to guarantee that you're going to hit at least 1 Climax off your Ronco. So, at the end of the day, it can help you out, and it's might as well worth run it because it is a pants combo. Now, in other builds I've seen that run Ronco do actually run Minami as the level 1 combo, and that's perfectly fine, but I feel for me, we're playing a Ronco deck, so why not run the level 1 Roncos? Moving on to our Climaxes, we have obviously 4 copies of Ronco's Climax because Ronco is the main character we are playing in the deck, and because it's one of the main characters, she does have 4 different artworks for her Climax. So we have the promo, the SR, the triple R, and the rare. So obviously you might as well run one of each. And I think I mentioned this in my Asterisk profile, but it's kind of like a way to work out what Climaxes are still left in your deck by playing the alternate art Climaxes, which is a pretty funny way to actually, you know what's in your deck. We have 3 copies of Over Heartbeat version, which is a pants trigger. We're only running 3 because we don't necessarily need this. We're mostly just running it for the Climax Salvage. And the last Climax that we're running in the deck is the Going +2 Soul promo that has Ronco on it. Because Ronco's on it and +2 Soul is always funny to run in a waifu deck. Essentially, you can drop this when you've got your Ronco combo out and you can do a lot of damage at your level 1. Or you can even side for some reason if you couldn't get that change going and you couldn't go. So you can just play the +2 Soul and then side if you really need to, if you're missing a particular piece of the combo. But anyway, guys, that is it. Hopefully you enjoyed the profile. Of course, remember that this Ronco deck is not a competitive Ronco deck at all. Idolmaster isn't as powerful a set as it used to be. It got power creeped pretty heavily, but I still have a lot of fun playing this deck on occasion, and it's when I bring my box of decks to play, it is always one of the 4 decks that I always pull out to play the most, obviously because I really like the character, I really like the gimmicky of how it plays. But anyway, guys, what do you think of this deck? Did you like it? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, make sure you check out the Asterisk profile for Weiss Schwarz, as well as the Rosenberg, as well as the Dark Illuminate / Asterisk deck profile I have for Buddy Fight that's up here on the channel as well. Remember to like and subscribe, hit the bell button so you're updated. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you for my next video.